Hello, everyone. So we are going to discuss today the aggregation in the SQL Server 2019 or Azure SQL. In the previous video, we have seen the similar topic within the Spark SQL, but that is more like uh, to handle the big data or large variety of data where we have the structured, unstructured, and semi-structured data is available, and we want to prepare it or convert it in a way so we can feed it into machine learning or apply the transformation to convert it into a true analytical outcome that we can display on our dashboard. So that's from the Databricks or Spark SQL perspective. But obviously, if we want to run the similar queries within the SQL Server, which is another aspect of the data engineering, because in day-to-day job we are not getting all the time the requests for the big data set, which is obviously slowly coming into the organization. But most of the time we get the requirement to extract the data from our OLTP databases or our OLAP databases. So OLTP databases are more like where we have the data that has been stored and always remained fresh, like it doesn't contain any history. However, in the OLAP system, we normally keep the historical information as well. So that's why that has been used to generate the analytical queries using the data warehouses, data marts, depend upon the architecture that has been implemented within your organization. But then the biggest point in here, that how we can run or build the aggregation queries that can aggregate that data so we can present it back to the business. So today we're going to see the skills to write the aggregation query using the Azure SQL or SQL Server 2019. So let's jump straight into the dev environment, and we start with the intro to our tables. Let me share my demo environment. We are going into the box. Yeah. So you can see we have three tables. Let me quickly show you. Let me put person first, and the schema is pretty simple. Like you have seen that so far we are just using the human resource schema because that's easy to understand, because the relationships are very natural and everyone can understand it. And once you have that understanding, then you can take one step further to start analyzing the more complicated relationship and take more complicated schema in consideration. So our percent table, let me quickly show it to you. Let me just take top 100. We have these attributes available for person. We have already discussed this table in the past video. Don't need the repetition. So you can see in the employee table, we have the organizational level, we have the job title, and we have marital status, gender, hire dates, salaried, flag, vacation hours, and sick leave hours. And then obviously we have department. So department is more like where where the employee is working. And obviously, like I mentioned that in the past video, if you remember, the employee is not directly linked with the department, because in the organization employees move between departments. So we have a bridge table that we call employee department history, which is creating a bridge between employee and the department. So we can see the movement of employee between different departments during his or her stay within the enterprises. Let me quickly check one thing before we proceed further. Yeah, I think we do have that table. So let me just bring that table as well. So that was the me just keep the format consistent. I don't want to, confuse with the, and that's always, good. If you want to use, uh, if you are using one format, then try to use the same format all across. So your script shows standardization. Otherwise, might confuse people who are later using your script or trying to understand what you have done from the extension perspective or modification perspective. So our last table is employee department history, and like I mentioned, it is the bridge between, you can see the department as well as the business entity, which is obviously a unique ID assigned to each employee, right? And we have already discussed that in our joint table video as well. Now, so I think the aggregation concept apply similarly within the Azure SQL and SQL Server. If you don't understand, please watch the intro video that I have introduction that I have recorded within this Sparse SQL aggregation video, because that's where you're gonna see how we aggregate the information, and the concept is gonna remain same. So the beauty, that's why I'm saying the beauty is learning one concept and one skill. It will uniformly apply on both sides. So once you learn SQL or once you have this concept, they seamlessly apply on the SQL Server, which is purely the structured database, as well as on the unstructured, semi-structured, and big data application like Databricks, where we use Spark SQL or Azure Synapse or any other language, any other tool that is providing you the SQL interface. You can interact with using the same skills. So coming back, so last time, if you remember, let me quickly write down our key. You normally use /star to start the block comments. So we have a couple of famous function like we have discussed within the main and there are a bunch of more. We can check in the Microsoft live documentation or online documentation if you want to get more information, or if you are looking for a function which is not available directly, so we can search the online documentation. Like I mentioned, always keep the online documentation as your close friend, because day-to-day working we normally won't remember everything. So these documentation really help us to find out the right function that we can use to do our job. All right, coming back to the first function count, like the name mentioned, it normally returns as the total number of records within the table. So let me just run it in the employee table. We have 290 records. So now star means it is going to use all the columns, like it is going to consider the full column, but we can apply the same function on a column level as well. So for example, if I just want to count how many gender values we do have. So let me run it. We have 290 gender. It is not different from the total number of record. But if we want to see how many unique values we have, we use the distinct clause. And if you remember, I have already discussed distinct provide us the unique values or suppress the duplication, put it in either way. So we put the distinct clause, and now instead of returning the 290, you're going to see it's only going to return us 2 record, because in my whole employee table, I only have 2 gender. Like you can see, we have two flag, M for representing male and F for representing female. Similar way, let me do the same thing for marital status. Marital status. By the way, if you want to run multiple queries in one go, you just need to select them and then run it. So you can see we're going to have 2 output. The top one is showing us the total number of marital status value sitting in my employee table, and then obviously the other one is the the unique one. Okay, so that's all about count, and now we move towards the sum. And obviously, like that sum, that sum apply on the numerical column because it calculates the sum. And similar way, we have the average. By the way, before we move towards sum, let me just right now we are aggregating it on the complete table level. But how about if we want to group by other attributes, like we want to dissect that count, we want to uh, uh, divide that count by the values. For example, if we take the similar way that, okay, how many female or male are present in my employee table. So if you remember last time, I actually did mention one thing. If you don't mention group by column in the outcome, you're not going to get any error. It's going to actually show you the outcome. So now that count which we have received previously on the full table level, now we are getting it by the gender. So it has been divided it, but the only problem, we don't know which one is male and which one is female. There's another thing you need to remember. So for example, if you write a aggregation query and you mention a column that has not been used in the aggregation function, and you try to run the query, you're going to get the error. And that error is quite common because it is saying that gender, the column you are using in the aggregation statement, and I can understand, but the problem is I'm not able to find that gender in any aggregation function or in any in the group by clause. So group by clause we normally use if we are using a column that is not part of our aggregation function. So let me repeat, we use group by clause to mention a column which is not part of our aggregation function and we want to use in our select statement. So now I know that I want to divide it by the gender. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to put the group by clause and I'm going to put the column name. So now you will see, let me give it a name, total employee, right? And let me run it now. So you can see we have gender coming as F and M, right? Which is great. But now let me go one step further, and I just want to create a small twist. I know I can do it in here, but this FMM doesn't make any sense to us, right? So what we're gonna do, we're gonna actually give them some meaningful name. So what we can do in that case, we can apply case statement, if you remember, where case when gender is equal to M, then it's going to show as male. And considering we only have two values, if we have, we can put more clauses, but considering we only have none, so it's only going to be if and else. So case and else, either it's going to be one or the other condition from the logical perspective. So if it is going to be F, then obviously we are asking to, right? And that's going to be my gender. Incorrect syntax. Let me see. Case when That's sorry, I put the wrong condition. Now everything is correct. Yeah. So now you can see case. We have case when gender is equal to M, we are going to show male, and if it is going to be obviously not M, because we are not mentioning any other condition, we are saying all other cases should be treated as female. All right. So now you can see we are getting the value in a proper way, right? We can change. Yeah, I think male and female, and we can just keep the. So that's how you can see we are not only doing the aggregation, but we are also applying the transformation on our data, right? So that's the example to do this multiple thing within one query. Right now, I'm just going to extend it a little bit further. I'm now going to make it a little bit more complex. Now, what I want to do, I want to see, okay, how about if I want to further aggregate it by the marital status, right? So you can see we have the total divided again by now we have more combination, because now we are not only aggregating by gender. Now it's going to combine all the value combination of all the column, and then calculate the count. So that's where the aggregation really shines, that the count is further divided by all the value combination of gender and marital status. And like I mentioned, we are going to do the same thing with the marital status as well, considering it follows the same convention. So, for example, so marital status, if that is going to be M, so I know it's going to be married, and if it's going to be not married, then obviously it's going to be single. We only have two status. Obviously, we have multiple status, but in this case, we are only keeping two status. And now our query aggregation query is quite good and ready. So you can see we have now we have the aggregation total number of count by female who are married, and by male who are married, and female who are single, and by male who are single. Keep in mind these queries and these categorical attributes, they play a very important role while we build the dashboard. So right now you just need to learn how you can construct that information, but once you learn it, we're gonna see how it is going to play a really important role on our dashboards. Once we build the dashboard, once we present that information, and business need to slice and dice that information, that's all where these attributes, who are normally called categorical attributes, they play their important role in there, right? And they are one of the major skill that you need to learn as part of your analytics and data skill sets. All right. So the next one we are going to, so we are pretty good on this the count. Now let me just go back. We are going to now apply some other function from our understanding perspective. So you can see we have the birth date and we have the hire date. So we are going to see who is the most senior and most most junior from the hiring perspective. So who is the oldest and who is the newest employee within our company, right? So now what I'm going to do, I'm just going to mean of hire date, because that will give me the minimum the latest sorry, newest hire and max of the hire date, which is obviously the oldest hire, right? And let me run it so you can see we have our newest hire. We have it back in. Sorry, I think I did on the other way around. My bad. Let me quickly change it. So you can see our oldest employee is working since 2006, which is really good. And our newest hiree is 2013. By the way, this is the old data set, so don't be confused. We are in 2022, right? So that data set has been built in 2013. Obviously, once you run on the practical or the real data set, you're going to get the value accordingly. But you can understand the concept. That's how we normally do the aggregation on our date columns as well. Now coming back, and I'm just going to now put a scenario for our sum and average as well. So in the sum, we are going to actually calculate the total number of hours by the job title, and obviously the total number of sick leave hour by the job title. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to use sum and aggregation. So I need to put the table first. I'm lazy in writing, so I'm just going to use the same thing for sick leave, right? And I'm just going to group by job title, right? That how many sick leave hours and how many vacation hours have been allocated to each title within our organization. So let me just give it a name. Total vacation hours, and that's going to be total sick leave hours, and it is going to be grouped by job title, right? So now let's run it. So now you can see we have all these the total number of hours which are coming by the job title, that how many employees. So it's more like, you know, how many the aggregation of the vacation hours as well as the sick leave hours by the cluster of employees. So for example, we are combining the total number of accountants in our organization, and we are seeing how much vacation hours they are using and how many sick leave hours they are using, right? Let me also do one more thing, because right now the data is not showing us a shape. So let's just put a pattern. We are going to do it by total sick leave hour, right? So we are just going to see, and let's do it descending, because ascending might not give us. So you can see the production technician WC40 employees, they are taking most of their vacation hour, and obviously we still have some which are not taking or which are just taking, you know, only one. Sorry, we did it by the sick leave hours. Sorry, no, we didn't do it. Yeah. So we still have some which so the minimum sick leave hours have been used by the vice president of engineering. Obviously, these people, they are very few within their department or within their role. So we can see the minimum is 20 and the maximum is obviously because that's where the number of employees are high within the cluster, within the group. So that's why it is coming as a top sick leave hours consumer. Right, so that's some of the scenario that you can use, but obviously once you have the real-time reporting, you will get the actual requirement and you build your queries based on those reports. Now we are going to do something interesting. So that's purely by the employees. But what we want to see how we are going to get the information by department, right? Because right now we are only using it by a single table, right? Which is not actually always the case in the practical. Practical queries are very complicated. So we are just now going to enter into that complexity. So let me just copy the same query. And I'm just now going to, because we are now going to use multiple table. Like I mentioned, we have that bridge table. And if you don't know the modeling, I recorded one video where I have discussed this data model. Please watch that video. I'm just going to add that link in the video description, so it will help you to understand the data model. So once you watch this one, you understand how these tables are linked and how we are extracting that information, right? Because your data model first convey you the information about the entities, how they are linked, and then you write the queries, right? Don't jump on the queries directly. You need to first learn how the data modeling work. And even if you can't create the data model, that should be all right. But at least you understand how the entities are and how they link together, because that will help you to write really good, strong queries using SQL as language. Now, coming back in here, we are in here. So what I'm going to do, like I mentioned in the start, this table is a bridge. So I'm just going to plug my employee table first with this table. So we are going to say inner join with, and let me just call it EDH, because employee data history, I give it an alias on E dot join E dot, business entity ID is equal to EDH dot business entity, right? And now we are going again in a join, and this time we are not going to, we are just going to do department D on D dot department ID is equal to EDH dot department ID, right? And let me just take these two statements in comments at the moment, because that's how you always build your query. Never ever go for the final solution. Always try to divide it, right? So now I know I'm going to actually generate the same information which I'm using by the job title or by the role. I'm going to do it by the department. I know the department is not directly linked with the employee. So let me, as a first step, let me link the department with the employee. And once I did some analysis, I identify that department can only join with my employee table through employee department history. So that's the first problem I need to solve. Now, if I run this one, and let's say, I just want to see, okay, what whether I'm going to get the information right. By the way, once you use the star after the alias, it return you all the column of that particular table. Similar, so we are not actually showing any information of the employee department history. We are only showing information for employee department, so employee and department. So let me run it to just see whether it's going to impact on the count. So you can see we have 296 table, which is great. Like we can see that 296 we have employees, and they are all coming with the department information, right? With the corresponding department information, right? So these there are the department ID. So now you can see how we are actually link all the employees by their department. Now I'm going to actually filter that information so we can show less information, and it will help us to analyze it, because by showing all columns it will help us to pick which one we are going to use. So obviously we are going to use business entity ID from our employee side. Let me just use the job title as well, because that will end. I can use vacation hour as well, and I can use I can use sick leave hours, right? And then I'm going to now, from the department side, I'm going to use department ID. I'm going to use name, which is more like, department name, and we can call it department name in this way, right? And then I'm going to get the group name. I forgot comma. So I think these are the columns I need. So let's see. Let's run now. So now the only thing I did from the previous query to this one, I just select the column which I need, which I want to see, so I can build a query. So I have all the vacation hour, I have all the sick leave hour by the job title, but now this time by linking these two tables, I have the department name as well as the group name. So group name is more like, the parent department. And like I mentioned, in the organizational structure, one department has a sub department. So that's how they have actually managed the hierarchy within the same table. And I think that's where if we haven't discussed it, we're going to actually discuss soon this self join, which is very important if you want to plug the same table to the similar same plug the table to the same table through another column. That's the self join concept. We're going to discuss it. All right. So now what we are going to do, we are ready, because we have the vacation hour and sick leave hour, and we are going to group it by department name, right? So that's how we build our complex query. We divided our problem into chunks. We solve the chunks, and then we and at the end we have our final solution. And if our problem is really complex, then we have second technique. We divided it into chunks. We build those chunks, and then we integrate them, and that will give us the final solution. So in this case, we're going to use our first technique. So again, now I'm going to open the group by clause, and this time I'm going to use the department name, and you can see I can just put the name as it is, but this time, let me see if I can copy this. And I don't need the job title. What I'm going to do, I'm just going to use it. Yeah, I think we don't need the group name this stage, right? And now I think we are pretty good. Let's run it. So you can see all these sum of sick leave hours and vacation hour, they are coming by department name, right? Now I'm going to, like I mentioned, we are seeing by the sub department level. How about if we want to see the department and then we want to see the sub department, and then we see how many what's the aggregation, or what's the division between the main department and the sub department of our total sick leave and the total vacation hours. So in this case, I'm just going to add group, because here it has been used group name, right? I'm just going to add group name, and let me run it from the group. So now you can see, and now I just want to, arrange this information in a nicely ordered way so business can easily understand. So it's not like, they are scratching or they are sorting it at their end. So I'm just going to sort it by ourselves. So in this time, instead of, sick leave hour, I'm just going to put that, okay, sorted by group name first. And then once it's sorted by group, within the group chunk, sorted by name, right? So now you can imagine all the groups which are starting with the initial letter, they're gonna come first. But then within that group, whatever record is going to be within those group, the sub department or the name of department, they are also going to be arranged from low to high. Now let me run it. So you can see executive, they are coming up, and within the executive group, we have multiple sub departments, right? And you can see within the executive, we have facility, and now the information is sorted nicely, right? And you can see the whole information is sorted from low to high. And then we can obviously see the count accordingly. So that's how we use the aggregation. There are many use cases which we're gonna see, especially from the analytical perspective. These queries really work a lot, and they have been used on your day-to-day work. So get a good grip on the aggregation queries, because especially once you go for the interview, most of the question, especially from the SQL perspective, and the scenario you're gonna face, they're gonna come all around the aggregation, subquery, and joins. Because once you get a mastery on these skills, you become really good in manipulating or preparing the information, which is the core part of the data engineering, because that information is either going to consume by another system, which could be another analytical system, or the machine learning system, or that information is going to be produced for the business for their own decision making or for their own working, right? So that's from the practical side of the aggregation. So hopefully you like the video. Please put your comments or like the video. If you have any question, please put in the comments, happy to answer. And I'm gonna see in the next video where we're gonna discuss the Windows function, one of the most important function in the analytics in both sides, Spark and Azure SQL or SQL Server. Thanks for watching, and I'm gonna see you in the next video.